Buddy, we'll go ahead and get started. If people online can give me a virtual thumbs up just to ensure that you can hear the room and see the room, that would be great.
Looks like you only have
We only have three of them are us, so two real people. Two people that count.
and to make you feel better.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. So once again, my name is Kim Castro. I'm the recreation manager with the City of Santa Clara Parks and Recreation Department. And we are the youth sports facility user group. It's February 6th, and this is for the recording, so we don't remember or lose track of who we are and what we're doing. The agenda today is on the screen and sent out last night. Just want to reiterate and do some intros, make sure everybody knows who's in the room and who's online. Wade Brummal policy, before we do intros, is set to go to the Park and Rec Commission Tuesday. So that should be posted to the city's agenda review system. Is today Thursday? Today, by end of day. And we'll send that out to the group once it goes live. And hopefully reflects the work that this group has been doing. And then the intention with that is assuming the Parks and Recreation Commission makes a recommendation for approval, it would go to the council in the April timeframe. And then implementation of the Wade Brummal policy upon adoption by the council. So we would be able to start with the new regulations and new policies and procedures on that right away. So.
We stay by, I think, heard. So February 10th, you're going to present it to a council.
The Parks and Recreation Council.
We'll then review it, modify it, change it, whatever it might be, and then they'll pass it to the city council.
The city council, they need to make a recommendation to council so if they don't make a recommendation to council on Tuesday, and then they could choose to defer it because they're not happy with it. They could send it back to this group, but we've had several commissioners involved in this process. It's unlikely that they would kick it back, but there may be some on the fly modifications that they desire. And so it could be that they accept it, make a recommendation with their desired modifications. If folks from this group are in that room, it's very helpful for them to understand, for those who were not participating in the dialogue, so that we're not rehashing the whole process again. The report attempts to talk through all of the conversations that this group has had and the interest that this group has, and quite frankly reminds the commission that this was a directive of them back in 2023, that the Wade Brummal policy needed to be reviewed, and they wanted it to go to the user groups for review. So it's sort of exciting that like that process is completed and we're able to bring it back to them. It did take longer than we.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it says right there, the 29th is when we're trying to go, 29th. And the fees.
And the fees. Okay, so let me pause there. I was just letting people get into the room who were joining online, and if we were having any stragglers join us in person, but let's go ahead and go around the room and do introductions. And let me pin the right group here, and I'll stop sharing for a moment so everybody can see the room. Okay, Shay, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm Shay, represent Santa Clara Lions.
Michael Sue, AYSO Region 64.
David Curtis, resident and coach Westside.
Mike Watkey, Santa Clara Pal.
Dale Seal, director of Parks and Rec.
Daniel Sparacino, Parks and Recreation Director.
Justin Boyd, we're trying to coordinate this policy.
Educate Wilson and Recreation City.
And in the back of the room,
Recreation coordinator.
okay, over here.
So, management analyst.
Okay, and Julie.
Julie Corrigan, Santa Clara Swim Club.
Hey, Dino.
Dino Plancarte, Spartans, softball.
Thank you. Iris.
Hi, good morning. Iris, Santa Clara Unified School District.
Thank you. Linda.
Hi, Linda with West Side Little League. Sorry I can't be there in person. I have the flu.
We're sorry. We were just saying how that's going around. Thank you for keeping us away from your germs. We appreciate the consideration. And Julie introduced herself, right? Yeah, okay.
We'll say really quick that I need to get another meeting at 12, so I'm gonna have to sneak out, but Kim and Angelina are here to facilitate the meeting. I'm just here to support, but yeah, I'll be following, I'll be in the follow-up meetings as they come up.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, so we left the last meeting sort of excited that we had agreement with the Wade Brummal policy. And as I mentioned at the forefront, that's moving forward. In our email out to the groups last night with the agenda, we sent in a special attachment called Community Grant Policy. And that is an opportunity through the city manager's office for folks to apply for a grant. And there's a youth sports or youth competition category with that grant. And so there's hard copies on the back table if you would like that. It's several pages, so we didn't make a ton of copies, but we also emailed it out to you there. We wanted to just make the group so aware of that grant opportunity in addition to Wade Brummal. And as I mentioned, Wade Brummal, you'll be able to start doing your applications and stuff for that upon its adoption. So,
Can we make a comment?
yeah,
I only saw 3 documents sent out email last night. Field fees, youth sports facility, group meeting agenda, draft of the city deals. I did not see.
yeah. Did you not see that?
Am I visually? You guys good? I said 3 on mine. Just maybe it's becoming.
We'll resend. So
That's just a check, that's all.
thank you. That wasn't the intention. The intention was to email it out.
That's fine.
Thanks for keeping us honest on that. Okay, so our main point of conversation today is to review the draft city field use priorities and fees, which we had dialogued about quite extensively last meeting. And the ask was for you to go back and get some feedback on them. They're on the back of your agenda for the ones that were sent out. These were the same that were shared with the group last meeting. And then in the late night, Michael sent out another proposal and asked that the group dialogue about that today. And it involves making an additional category for both a fee and a prioritization of allocation of fields. Okay, so before we go to the new proposal, is there any feedback from the group on what we proposed last meeting in terms of the fees that are on the back of your agenda? Are we feeling ready to go? Are we feeling we need more massaging?
I'm sorry to chime in. This is my first event, so I don't really have familiarity with the fee structure you're speaking to. Is it possible to do just a quick summary?
Yeah, Dino, thank you. I apologize. I will bring that up for you right now. It's better if I share it on the screen, right?
Yes, that would work. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Your question is on the basic structure of fee structure as it looks now. Is there any questions?
Is there any questions, or is there, last meeting, it was feeling like we were on the right track. We were ready to move forward with them. But you wanted to go back to your respective
Yeah.
boards and groups. So is that still the case with these?
For those of you, I have a question, and I would, from my premise of looking at all the field fees that you guys have pulled, thank you very much for doing that research. Whoever did that did a ton of work.
Yeah.
the 280 seems quite high.
Mhm.
It seems way out of line with most of the other numbers.
Mhm.
So I don't know how that 280 was generated. Is it primarily, in my perception, if I'm wrong, is that number's used to feed money into Wade Brummal?
That money, that's closer to a cost recovery, a full cost recovery fee. And it's used to offset a lower fee that a group that is not doing
It's
full
a balance
cost
of
recovery.
the side of it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I need at some point, I mean, you guys probably had a discussion already, what that balance looks like and how much offset and how much is funded by other outside interests like 49ers money or something like that. I don't know where the other fees come from. So if it's the right balance, 280 seems quite high for anybody. If you look at even all the other feed numbers, I think you might put yourself in a position where you'll get people not using the loans and you won't make the recovery. Like a bathtub curve, the higher the number goes, the fewer people are going to want to spend the money. And I think you're running into that type of process. If you go too high, too far afoot from the rest of the market, people won't buy it. And you won't get the money you need to offset the other side of the field. So you think the balance is good.
The only time when this is actually even an option for people is during the day before 4 o'clock. Because the fields are not available to anybody in this range.
Priorities ahead of that.
Because the priority is ahead of that. And so this is a super low priority rate. And it's built because the volume and the interest of the city is to serve the residents and the youth first. And so that's.
No problem with that. I think it's that you're just going to have, if you're losing the money for one thing, or expecting to see revenue from it, you may not at that rate.
Yeah.
And that's why I worry about, that's all.
Okay.
As I've already discussed it, so.
We discussed it last meeting. And I think everybody was pretty happy with that because of the prioritization.
Your point is, if the price is too high, demand will be low and you're not finding that price.
You're not going to get your return. Yeah, your revenue.
Right. So I mean,
Drop
you
it.
guys have had this rate for several years. You know that demand at this point, whether it's working or not.
But they've had a number of pushouts too. So I don't know. I can't tell. Yeah, the district.
This rate's kind of carried over the years. It's been in place for a long time, has not fluctuated. And it's used in the daytime. Yeah, thanks to the earthquakes. BFC.
Softball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
outside groups.
Yeah. And again, it's not just here, right? It's other locations as well.
Yes, exactly. It is. It's the other facilities as well. So it might be a 1-day triathlon even, it's random events that are more commercial in nature. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Linda was looking at it a second.
So the idea here would be that the resident youth rate would begin next fiscal year at $8, go to 26, or to go to $10 in 26-27 fiscal year, and then go up by CPI the next year. So
$10 plus CPI.
plus CPI, yeah. So I just looked it up because I was trying to put a reference for which CPI we would be using, and it was 3.4%, or it's like 2.8 between 3.
I made a comment. Would you want to go CPI not to exceed a number?
Does the group want to go not to exceed a number?
Where CPI can move all over the place, but you don't hate to say it goes to 10%. But you want to sort of limit that?
So you want to limit CPI only?
No, CPI,
It'd be $10 plus CPI. So if
Not
it's
to exceed,
not to.
no more than $15, let's say.
or not, or like 3%.
5%.
Because.
Yeah.
So you would do a percentage, I got it.
Yeah,
All right, I'm okay with that. Not to exceed 5% a year.
Yeah, or what do you, yes, you do it annually, so yeah.
Yeah.
Annually, maybe.
not to exceed 5%. Is that what the group is feeling? Anybody online have a different thought? Yeah.
So that seems fair.
At $10, but they're there, but down to the bottoms, they get higher.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What is y'all's goal if you put 5%?
It's
Stability,
stability and it wouldn't inflate in.
Makes sense.
well, for you guys, but as you did too, was it at,
280.
because you're likely going to,
$14.
you're going to continue this beyond the 5-6 years to continue the process.
So like number 5 here, this is whatever, whatever ends up being in fiscal year 26, 27, that rate plus that year's CPI. So it could compound quickly if it's not capped. So, okay, that's a good recommendation.
Not to exceed 5%, I like.
Yeah, okay. All right, good. And then last time we had dialogue about the definitions of these groups and the prioritization. And there were some edits made to the resident youth nonprofit and resident adult nonprofit to have the groups based in and serving the city of Santa Clara. And then reference to make sure we included attendance of Santa Clara Unified School District and the nonprofit, or sorry, the private schools within the boundaries of Santa Clara. And then we clarified what the rosters would entail, and we'll go back and cross-reference this with the Wade Brummal to make sure that the player's name, addresses, and zip codes are the only things we're asking for. And it's just initials on the players' names. So there can be some confidentiality there.
That, because you know, City of San Jose requires full names and addresses and everything, and I've argued with them is that that's a child safety issue. If I give you the child's first name, you can then call them out.
I can't.
My parents sent me, parents sent me to pick you up, because I know your first name, I know you live.
Yeah, you can't do that. That's,
Yeah, City of San Jose said, oh, we have a security policy. I'm like, well, just asking for trouble.
It becomes a public document at that point, and so unfortunately, as we talked about last meeting, anybody can request it. I can't manage that. Yeah.
Saying similar to how Campbell does the percentage, just kind of to the percentage of residents. So there's 58%, you know, not residents.
We could get it every season, like, why you asking for?
That's a completely different model than we've been talking about here. So if we want to, have that discussion, we need to have it because we haven't brought up that way yet. So
Quick question, sorry to interrupt. You mentioned residents and then you mentioned students attending Santa Clara School District. Is it both or one or the other?
it's both. So there are some kiddos that might attend a Santa Clara Unified School District, but do not live in the city of Santa Clara, but they are still considered residents by this definition.
You mean either, not both.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's either, yeah. And then also same thing with students who attend a private school that's within the boundary of the city of Santa Clara, they would also be considered a resident.
And if you live in Santa Clara but go to a private school outside of Santa Clara city limits, it's still valid.
Yes, which means we should add the school here. Yep. Correct. Okay. And then residency is a little bit easier to define. And then this was,
Can I come back and say school if needed? Because I could be homeschooled. You don't see, like we're talking about the kids from the program for years, they're all taught online. So you just say if needed.
It'll still be listed on the roster, and I think I've seen that, and I guess when I've seen it, those kids have been Santa Clara residents.
Yeah.
It's listed as a homeschool.
That's true. Because if I already am a Santa Clara resident, I don't need to tell you what school I'm in.
correct. You only need to do it if the school is outside the city boundaries.
do you want to address Linda's point while we're on number 2?
Yeah, I think the group needs to have a conversation about it for sure.
Say,
What'd she say? Read it again.
it said for the number 2 category resident youth nonprofit, I would like to see a discounted rate corresponding to the percentage of Santa Clara resident rate. Like, so for example, 58% resident, then they'd receive, or I cannot read, will receive the 58% discount.
So what Campbell does is they say you're going to rent the field, let's say for 2 hours at $8. But they would have 58% of their roster is residents. So then they would give you a 58% discount off of the $8.
A discount on top of the discount.
It's a discount on top of the discount.
Man,
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to honor more discounts given for people in residence. It's just how much would you state it by? Is there a threshold you get to, for instance, you get to 100%? That should be rewarded at some level, I would think.
Well, I know in our case, Cal is like in the high 90s for every one of our sports.
Yeah. So I think maybe it's some threshold you hit, it triggers, but not a scalar of 58% this week, 55% next week. It's too. That's a lot.
There's more chat.
Plus, the debt for Saratoga Valley also inflates the average and median in active way. I also have a hard time having the same fees as Mountain View and Sunnyvale when their fields are not like ours. Example, look at Central Park compared to some of their fields.
I think we hope to get to, Mountain View has a lot more synthetic fields than we have. They have a lot more sports complexes than we have. And I think Damon's hope is that over time we get a different rate for synthetic versus turf. And so we're just not quite there yet. Exactly.
Grass fields throughout Cupertino, Los Altos, Mountain View are really nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I can't remember.
It's the same fee for like soccer park, grass, comp field as it is for Fatjo grass.
Right.
Which is not the same quality.
Not even close.
Not even close to. And so I think that's the next level that we need to try and figure out. How do we bring equity into that issue?
But I thought Damien had said that one of the next things we're going to tackle
Is
adjusting the usage fees for the turf fields versus grass fields, because of the cost is so different.
yeah, and that's why he's proposing why we talked about proposing some sort of rate in 27, 28 that addresses that.
It probably helps you to figure out who's using it, what the actual return.
Exactly.
What your cost of maintenance is.
Exactly.
Did we answer Linda's first question?
I don't think we have vetted it completely.
What
What's the percentage discount?
Yeah, it's a new concept. We didn't talk about that last time.
Did not, it's new.
Can I make just a general proposal then? Say 75% because you're 50. If it has a nice barrier and then this discount levels that you want to give 75% above.
So what you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, is you have to have minimum 70%.
75% to get a discount,
To get the discount.
an extra discount.
75% or higher to get a discount.
Yeah. Because if that really focuses a lot more on true 100% residencies or higher to that number. And with that discount number, we can probably discuss, which is rated, whatever you want to, but give a discount at that level. It'd be useful.
Linda, what do you think of that? 75% or higher?
For 50%.
I'd have to look at my numbers, to be honest with you. I just saw that on the fees chart, and I thought that was an interesting concept.
On the benchmarking, yeah. It's the only agency that does it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you, Kim and Angelique, maybe on your side, how difficult it is to facilitate that on your side for the cost structure? We put more of these if then, if else statements. How difficult is it to maintenance?
Well, we're already asking for rosters and evaluating residency with Wade Brummal. And so it would have to be tied to that cycle somehow.
Yeah.
So if we could figure out a way to tie it to that cycle, and it was like a once a year qualification or something like that, because you're doing Wade Brummal once a year,
Yeah.
right? So
Do you want to tie that residency rate discount to it almost specifically? So once you.
Well, that's when you give that's when you give the rosters, right? So that's when you give the rosters. So I don't think we could do it per season because most groups are requesting a field permits prior to registration sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And so it would have to be based on previous play
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Almost a look
done,
the previous year.
just
I
a,
mean, I'm okay with it. It's a discount to people who are truly serving Santa Clara residents and kids. The reward for doing that.
How does it impact your first statement about the revenue offset to the actual costs? I mean, if you're talking.
it's blown out of the water.
Okay.
I mean, we don't, you know, part of this process initially started because the city had a deficit and that's how the fees came into play in the beginning, in the first place, right? And so we went a year with the $14 $14 an hour rate. And then we got direction to stop it and have this process because we had to figure out like what would be a reasonable rate, policy, procedure, category, all these things that we've been talking about. And so that we could bring something back that the groups felt comfortable with.
I will say, you tell me, Mike, $8 is really low already. We're gonna discount $8 even more. You can tell me, I don't know how your budget's looking, but that's a really low rate.
Well, no, I mean, ultimately, I would like to see zero charge you non-resident or resident nonprofit groups that are 100% truly nonprofit.
Right, exactly.
Right? I mean, for
There's
PAL, we have, we
no
pay
space.
nobody except for a part-time secretary. That's our only paid employee.
We don't pay anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand your feeling.
So,
It's really about the opposite to the cost for you. But I think the side of it with the money cost is really you hate to put skin in the game mentality. You're buying into a little bit of, you're involved in the conversation and that helps the people say, okay, you're actually a quote unquote user. It's like CEOs who take $1 and pay. They have to, otherwise they get in trouble.
right.
Well, and if we found before the fees were instilled that there was, I see more chats going on, so I make this comment if you could pull those up, but that folks were reserving the fields and making them not available for everyone and then not using them. But when you start paying for them, then you only reserve what you actually need and then you're gone and another user can come on, which has allowed more play and more groups to be engaged in on the fields. What do we got, Angelique?
Majority of the council at the time wanted to see $0 for the longstanding Santa Clara youth nonprofit groups.
Makes sense.
Is there any?
So I think the discount helped with that.
Gets it closer to that at least.
Yes.
Or these parents are already paying taxes.
It was a cancellation.
Yeah, but it's $54, so.
Yep.
I mean, for $54 or no show rate, right?
Right.
So I know, like, if we did like 75% or more, then you get a discount. We're getting closer to the zero.
Getting really close to the zero.
Yeah, because I know for PAL and I'm pretty sure for West Side as well, because they have boundaries set by Little League rules that they're pretty much
Yeah, and the discount, I mean, Linda just said the same thing I was just saying.
Yeah.
Families are already paying property taxes and bonding, so giving a little bit of discount gets you closer to that zero because we're already paying for it, so you're paying for it, not using
It
it.
allows for skin in the game.
Yeah, right.
We're talking about.
5% is a good percentage, right?
Yeah, that's a good.
I think 75% is a good starting point. You
Okay,
have to remember, this is a living document in my opinion. It's gonna be updated constantly.
75%. Let me see if I can write this up in a way that you guys,
Here you go.
can you guys see what I'm writing?
75% residents.
Let me not write there. Then let me write on the document.
50% now.
comprehensive, but if there was a no-show fee per hour of field recreation.
That might be a different topic, though, right? So,
There's already a no-show fee. We just have been very lenient on the no-shows. It's difficult.
It's hard to
We can
manage.
At the facilities, we have staff, but we don't know, like, for instance, the 2 days ago, that big rainstorm, we don't know if that Central Park decided to cancel practices or not. We know here because obviously we're out here at 4:30 and there's nobody here. But we didn't get the phone call saying that we're canceling practice. So that's what we would like to implement is and we have, a clipboard that we go around and we kind of check who's here and who hasn't and who isn't here. So we have a way to go back and check. But we have been very lenient and not gone back and said, we're charging you $54 because your 3 teams didn't show up at XYZ times.
75% threshold, right, okay.
But if that,
Or meet 75%.
School district comes out. So I know when we have practice on the school fields, they send out an email saying, hey, please, it's been raining. Please don't use the fields to mess them up. And then the coaches send out and say, hey,
Will
practice is.
pay
That's
75% of.
different, or know if that's something,
They do that as well.
do they?
do, but some groups are better at notifying us than others.
Okay.
Some groups of coaches are better at notifying the league.
Yeah.
than Others, and it's just that trickle back to us. Sometimes it might be, there's 10 teams out here, 8 canceled, we choose side.
This is what all this goes to.
Yeah.
So we just would have to figure out a better system.
The year.
100 hours.
Get validated for the year prior.
What's the cost?
Fishy's typing. We see
Cost outweighs.
a few seconds later.
Is it delayed? Oh, is it there?
No, you type.
You guys
It's
see it?
about,
I think that's worded pretty well. Resident youth nonprofits that meet 75% or more of their rosters. 75% residency or more of the roster are okay, just worded different.
Okay, wait, let's clarify it though. That meet 70,
that meet a 75% threshold, right? That's it, you gotta be good because you.
that meet 70, that
Will pay.
Probably already paid the permit fee.
at least,
So it's
They
gonna
they
be-
pay it before they use it, right? We pay before we use it.
sometimes there, a lot of people are doing payment without the permit fee.
If we'd already paid, then that's the rest.
So
No, it's like water miles. You paid it ahead, you look back at what you did, and you go, okay, that's applied, discount is applied to the next year.
insurance will pay.
It's,
You know, if your following year gets a discount, right? That's what.
it gets paid at the end of the season, by the end of.
End of the season then.
End of the season.
You're okay.
Have at least, my AI does not like that, have residents, youth, nonprofits that have at least 75% or more of their player rosters are residents will pay 75. Is that, Linda, right, what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Worded a little funny, but
It's worded funny. Can you guys fix it? Help me wordsmith this, because my brain, resident
you non-sports that have.
at least.
I think you're trying to get into the roster terminology. It's, I think you just say threshold, because you're talking about thresholds below in the definition of what threshold, is. Right? Why you read defining what the word threshold, the thresholds are. You say down below 51% residents, right?
5% or more are residents.
Yes,
No, we're referring to player rosters,
okay.
Yeah.
are residents.
Or meet the residency requirement.
Meet the resident requirement.
So hard. I think it has a spot.
Being based on the seasonal permit.
And run it through chat. PT.
I know, rosters will be validated for the year.
Yeah, I saw.
Okay,
Yeah, those stuff up and just.
That's what I asked my wife. If we do make minutes.
I use it, but now I know.
I don't want to say the word discount.
Yeah, I do that.
So
Option?
I want to say
My-
they'll pay that percentage of the fee.
And
Okay.
I want to make it in an active
Active voice.
in an active voice. We'll pay 50% of the permit fee, right? It's not 50%, it's 50% discount, 50% of the fee. If we're talking about 50%, it's the same.
Just talk north.
Resident permit will reduce the permit fee by 50%. That's still an active voice.
Will reduce.
Permit fee by 50%.
I think this could be solved. Offline here.
Yeah, I think so. But I like the way we're just trying to make sure we get that. Yeah.
Okay, all right, let's go with that. We'll move on. What do we feel about adults? Do the same for adults or not? I mean, Santa Clara's always cared about kids before we care about adults. No offense to the adult leagues in the room.
We talked about
The number 3, resident adult nonprofit.
Number 2, or yeah, number 3, yeah.
number two too, because like we run like an EPIC program for people with disabilities to play soccer, and that has adults in it. And I think you may, I don't know if Santa Clara has something like that specifically, like programs that you guys sponsor that have adults with disabilities who aren't a nonprofit. I don't know.
We struggle with trying to figure out groups with disabilities because they draw, this was brought up a few weeks ago by Westside because the participants draw from multiple areas.
Right.
And so, but it is a service. But should Santa Clara pay for that service for everyone?
I think it's gonna be those things you're gonna look at it, you'll see what the need is in a couple of years.
And I feel like you could apply for the community grant process
You probably could.
or
The grant.
Makes sense.
I feel like Westside could apply for the grant for that league.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like it's a good, I think it's a good fit for it. Okay. All right. So that, if we're good with that and there's no other changes, we can go to the AYSO proposal. What do you guys think? Yes? Have we beat this to a dead horse?
The funny thing is the AOA proposal feeds it back into this, but I'll
Yeah, we'll see.
you know, I spent all day, all night trying to make the format look just like your format. People, it's typically, so
Okay. So at the 11th hour,
you're welcome.
we got this proposal.
Much coffee.
And what this is attempting to do, and correct me, is this the right one?
No.
No, this is
Yeah,
not the right one.
Our proposal. Yeah.
Hold on.
While she's bringing that up, so
It's in his email.
So the premise that I had was, you know, I know that AYSO covers larger than much. We have a lot of kids from Santa Clara too. And we recognize the need to have a nonprofit youth who are not 100% don't meet the residency requirement of 50%. Because we're still serving some of the kids within the same group. And I looked at this numbers, I said, well, it'd be nice to have, I'll stay away from the full residents youth teams, but be a line above, just above the nonprofit youth. And that, and also looking at the pricing, I specifically put in, we're double whatever the resident adults nonprofit is. So we're not down in the numbers you have. We're staying away from it and keeping the numbers. And those numbers look pretty much aligned to what you see at San Jose, out of Cupertino, out of Saratoga. Those are pretty much close. They're not too far from the overall market in that rate of somebody who wants to come in as a nonprofit, non-resident for youth specifically. So I just added that line in there. And the other side of it was the adult side of it. Well, the adult side of it's a different animal. We just talked about that for the other one. And so I said, that should be beyond the resident as a nonprofit. Again, like you talked about the people who have disabilities program, who have a wider spread, you're going to get a wider spread. There's no way you can get in there, but that at least allow it to be in that area. So I sort of align that to be double the resident cost. So it's you're still getting a revenue response that you're looking for from the group's perspective to feed into other programs and the cost of the maintenance, but it has a nice little balance in between. I do want to be careful between the resident side of it, but I think we're looking at focusing on youth. And I think I added some definitions for those two categories, copying what you guys had before and adding some other terminology in there. I think that's important. I would also say that these nonprofit, non-residents do not get any access to waiver. There's no SU. They can't, just making sure that
Groups in Santa Clara.
yeah, and I think that's important to keep it that way too. Okay, then there's some other, I made some definitions for them down below. I added them so you could read through them if you wish. I typed it as new so you can sort of see it, right? So a new youth, nonprofit, non-resident, youth activity groups based in Santa Clara County. I moved it from the city to Santa Clara County, because you don't want to get people coming up from San Mateo or other counties coming in, who were described as 18 years, filling what you did before, also proof of county residency, the applicant. So you can't have anybody who was like, let's say, lives in San Francisco County, come through and apply to be down here. They have to actually live within the county area. So you're serving the wider the community that you're in, because the county city lines are kind of vague anyhow, from that perspective, where people live. And then I said, you have to have a state of California nonprofit certificate on file.
How does that apply for AYSO if they're based in LA?
Oh, the nonprofit state of California, the applicant has proof. So I applied as the applicant to be here.
On behalf of the organization.
Yeah, because I'm the applicant. And I'm the proof, I'm not, and so I'm the resident, I'm approved. Does that make sense? So versus having it be the national organization doing. They're not applying. It's the way AYSO does it. It's individually regions apply for field permits. That's the nonprofit one for the youth, and the one below it, the sixth one, is for the adult side of it. Similar conversation, but just sort of saying 18 years and older. And you've had stuff like about privacy and rosters, but that's different. It says we don't make the 51% or 51% number. And it stays away from the priority within the people who are at the higher percentage rates, the more residents. You still get the priority sequence. We're a priority below you in the allocation process.
So just off the top of my head, I would like to see number 4 go below number 5. Our residents should come before non-residents, in my opinion. And as far as the rest of the stuff, I don't know, I'd like to mull it over a little bit.
Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm just instantly looking at it. I'm not hard set against it. I'm not hard set for it, but I think the non-resident should go below residents
As a priority.
as a priority.
But not in costing. That's the question I'd ask them.
Well, for me, it's a supply and demand issue. Like, if we had fields sitting empty in those peak hours, I'd be like, oh, let's figure out ways to add in some other groups and make a little revenue, and it would make sense. But right now, we currently turn away Santa Clara residents because we don't have space to field with.
For
The Santa Clara Lions. We have tryouts with hundreds of kids show up, and we can only take 15 because, I mean, I would create more teams, but we literally don't have space to do that.
And I have the space to create more teams.
So I don't have space for teams to practice.
Yeah.
We can only practice from 4:30 to. So we have about 80 kids on this practice field from 4:30 to 6.
Wow.
And when you start to put in other things, you're increasing demand. You're increasing more people having the opportunity to use fields that are already maximized. And it's frustrating, they're not here right now. It's frustrating to look over at field 4 and there's a San Jose Rush team that gets field sometimes, orange triangles, I don't remember what they are.
Oh, Golden Triangle.
And they have 10 kids. on
Santa Clara Rush now.
Yeah.
That's your name.
And so there's the more little nuances we put in, we're allowing groups to come in and take pieces of a pie that's already overly distributed. And if we had more fields, I think this would not be as big of an issue, but right now it's like, man, we're all trying to.
So for instance,
To consider the county as the boundary. We already receive a lot of people misunderstand the city of Santa Clara versus the county of Santa Clara. We have to define that for people when they're putting in their application, and also in regards to our other outside like picnic reservations. A person who is a Santa Clara resident is not allowed to reserve on behalf of a non-resident. So in my mind, that's very similar to what you're saying as a resident for the organization. So we would have to mold those types of because it crosses over to some of our other
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Recreation policies.
Also, just talking about the challenges on the limited facilities, the reservations. You're gonna be, with that wording, you're gonna be opening up to a lot of other groups. And we're gonna be challenged with piecemealing out to, say, a rugby group coming in. They're a nonprofit group from out of San Jose. They have the same qualifications, they have a 501c3, and they end up being categorized. And then we would be forced to chunk out some time for them. And it wouldn't just be rugby, it would be other soccer groups.
Right.
And other
sports.
that come in, flag football that comes in, and also making the same type of requests from, say, local fields or some other group within Santa Clara County. And it is a challenge because of the limitations we have.
And as an example, Pal Soccer, practice
But
one night
yeah, I
a week
want to
here,
break them out.
we go to
And after
Central Park and practice one night a week because the fields are so impacted with just Santa Clara residents.
And we, as much as we're like, yeah, this is great, that one night a week totally disrupted the Lions like schedule. We're figuring stuff out and we had teams practicing it in the dark.
Yeah, it's, if we had.
Yeah,
What was your suggestion, Shay, going back to this? You were mentioning something, we stopped, we pivoted. What were you saying?
If, just because a group is on the priority list, Marlon, does that mean if you have to schedule out a space for them? Because if the top 3 programs take up all the field space, do you just say no to everyone else?
If you come in and say that, or your director approves it, or manager approves it, I would be forced to chuck out some space for them.
That I want, because
I don't like that.
I feel like the top 3 can maximize the field space we currently
So
have.
that's sort of part of the next phase of the conversation, when we get to the scheduling part of it, and priority 1 and 2, we'll get that first chunk, and then 2, and 1, 2, 2, 3, and 4 would be the next. We're looking at potentially introducing a lottery system, and then bringing, it really would affect the soccer groups, so bringing the soccer groups to the table, having that lottery, and piecing out those, like we put in all our city programs that, and like my vision, this wall has all the fields, all the stands, and the slots and what's available.
Sounds like.
Then you go-
Sounds it.
Exactly. Of what, we've witnessed.
And then you pick a number and you go, you get your 2-hour block. Yeah.
That's sort of after we get into the fees part of it, how we're gonna actually allocate those fields.
The more people
So it's-
that, the harder it is to.
Yeah.
Complicated. You ask them to do with it, is make it more complicated. Is it helpful in the end? And I think you have too much to do, you have these spaces, I think the Lions, excuse me, I'll talk about, for-profit, commercial, is there not? Nonprofit, okay.
We have paid coaches, but we also have a rec league. Santa Clara Soccer has a rec league. So we have 2
Yeah.
Santa Clara rec leagues, house soccer and Santa Clara Youth Soccer.
Okay.
And they take up a lot of field space, about a third.
Santa Clara Brush.
There's like, it's the Santa Clara Brush.
Yeah, so they would come in at 4, which is on run. As we're trying to be careful, slope with the county revenue, as well as making sure that you're talking, by the time you get down to the bottom, there's nothing left.
That's my hope. If we have a lottery system.
We do that.
Or Marlon saying we have to chunk out a space for them.
Yeah.
That's space being taken away from the top 3.
Yeah.
On that project.
So what are the priorities if they're just
Yeah,
nonprofit?
what does it mean to be a priority?
Yeah.
The priorities have to be the priorities, right? Because otherwise you can't make any decisions at all.
Sort of what we inherited and what we have sort of had to negotiate, and we've had the long-standing groups, but as we've grown and as these fields became available, more groups are wanting more space. So we've gotten to the point where we realize we need to create a different system, because it needs to be fair, because what we see is one group getting high priority of all they want, and then we negotiate space for all the other groups. And it's not fair, and so we want to make it in black and white, so it is very easy to see how your fields were allocated.
You read Linda's comment or whatever is in the chat.
Kate said in her email, as you know, the fields in Santa Clara are extremely impacted by the local organizations, and then agreed, we also struggle to find space ourselves, and then agree with Angela.
We have like 5 minutes left. What,
Yeah.
so number 4 and 6 were added.
So this is what ASO's
My
proposing.
Correct.
This-
So,
Go ahead, sorry.
so what I'm saying is, and then there was some comments, should number, 4 go lower? Are we going to discuss that today? Because when does this have to go?
April 26th, right?
Okay, so there is time on this one.
Yeah.
All right.
So we could bring back to the group, think about if to have it, not have it, to move it. One suggestion was to move it to position 4, or move resident to position 4 and move nonprofit down 1 position.
Your point. It's gonna be more complicated.
It's difficult to answer that question without knowing what it means to be a priority.
Yeah.
Like, do you answer yes to all 1, yes to all 2, yes to all 3 before you move down the list? Or are you giving everyone a little slice?
Well, even right now, even if you are a priority 1, you're not getting everything you want. Right?
So what is-
That's why we've got to have some sort of lottery system or something for allocation.
Last week you showed what was being, or how the things are being given out for, like, 1s and 2s were assigned first. And once they were assigned, we went to
30 days later than it was the next.
Yeah.
the next one, which I think was very helpful. I think that's similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If we do those 1s and 2s first, then, and then we do the other one later, or down to the last meeting, then you don't get down, then there is no fields.
I'm just gonna reference to what I'm thinking is, I'd be happy to take the 4 and 5 personally, since I made the counter proposal. But then go back to the notes that Angelique mentioned, where there's some issues for trying to determine space, location, being Santa County, et cetera. Clarifying that language. I'm happy to go through and redo that proposal, sent back out to you.
What I'm thinking we do next then is, the next meeting is that conversation about allocations and how a lottery system may work
Valley Power.
to
Got this.
initiate priority 1 and 2, or actually it's 2 and 3, right? Because 1 is just off the top, right? And you guys know that's pretty limited because we try and make the fields available for you all. And then walk through some of the ideas that we've researched for how to do a field allocation lottery. And let's get some feedback on that. And then we can maybe that would inform what we do here. Does that sound like a good approach?
I thought we had to get some kind of answer on this today. So
Oh, no.
I don't say we're okay.
Did too, but we
Okay.
have a little bit of time now.
Yeah, they want to take it for the agenda, April 26th, the city council.
Yeah. So if we put maybe the last week of February, we put this time on the calendar. And then we come back together. Does that sound good? And we'll present some ideas on how to do a lottery. And if you guys can talk to other clubs too on how other fields are lotteried or allocated, what systems are out there, then we can get I think we can get back around to.
Some of them first look for serve.
Some are first come, first serve, yeah.
My question to the group here is on the pricing, sort of set, does that seem reasonable? Regardless of the priority, or if you don't have it, but does the pricing I propose seem reasonable to you guys? Any concerns? You think maybe it's all in line?
Is that before we saw what the other cities around us had? How does this,
The
Have to go back. and-
number 4 line is pretty much in line. And you for what you're seeing. Some like Saratoga, Cupertino costs $30 an hour for grass fields. So that's pretty much there.
And the chart that I sent out.
Yeah.
23rd meeting, I believe it was.
Yeah.
I think I sent this out after the 23rd meeting.
Yeah, you did.
I know.
There was only Cupertino is the only one that had an actual fee for non-resident nonprofit.
what was that fee? Sorry.
30.
I think San Jose has one. They grouped it in some, my registrar said there was one for San Jose.
It's 130, I believe.
Okay.
It's
Sorry,
you.
I handed this to San Jose. This is what they gave me back. Right next to it.
That's okay. So it's just a references that those numbers seem reasonable.
Yeah.
My perspective.
Okay, so we will send out a meeting request for the Thursday, the last week of February.
We do that. Is any doubts on those numbers, or do you have feeling?
But I think when we switch 3 or 4 and 5, I think the resident number should be less than the non-resident.
I think the resident number should be less than dropping from 100, I think that's what
It's at 60.
Yeah, I think it was at 60. Yeah, so we'll resend out the community
Grant thing.
grant policy so that everybody online in the community, in the group email, there's like 55 of us now on that email thread. So it's reaching a pretty wide audience. We'll do that. And then we'll also tip up the conversation online with the group to say that next meeting, we'll discuss the field allocations. And so if only soccer, we'll concentrate that meeting on soccer groups, although everyone will be invited to participate.
That we're just talking about here or?
Every place. We allocate everything at the same time. So
So just read that, 227 is the last Thursday.
Thursday, okay.
To discuss what we just were talking about. And then what was the date? What did you say after that?
We'll talk about field allocation and we'll come back to this resident or this
priority fees.
priority fee, non-resident resident. And at that point, I would like to get consensus on the fees because I have to start writing a report. I mean, I can start writing a report and then plug this stuff in later, but it's helpful to know the thought process of the groups and where you feel comfortable. It's really important for us that when we bring these things forward, we're presenting something that is your voice, you feel comfortable with. And the last thing we want to do is get up there and go, oh, you know, we were completely against this and staff is crazy. So
Yeah,
we
we
want to avoid,
constructive debate.
yeah, avoid the pitchfork by the council. We can. So, okay. With that, if there's anything else for the good of order, we can be adjourned.
Thank you guys for all this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not knowing the fields information, which fields